to connect you.
CETO Assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles?
What'd
Hello?
you say? Hey.
Yes, how far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
All right, well, let's get you going. Membership number or phone number listed on the account, sir?
I don't know the phone number. It's either. I think it's. Try that.
All right.
I know we have a membership, like guaranteed. I don't have the tag
unless
on
you
here.
have a membership number or anything, it's okay. I'll get you over to the captain. What's the best phone number to reach you at?
Reach me at 2.
All right. And is everybody on board in good health otherwise?
Yeah, everybody's
How
on
many?
board.
All right. Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
What?
Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
No, we do not need that.
All right. All right. Do you have your current GPS coordinates?
Let me go look.
If not, I can send you a text message.
North. All right, are you ready?
Yes, sir. I'm available.
North 30 degrees by 4672.
All right. 4672. All right. And you were breaking up a little bit. Can you just repeat it one more time to make sure I have it correct?
Sorry, look.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, what?
So you're breaking up. If you need assistance, do you have a VHF radio?
No, we do not have the VHF radio.
All right. Well, let's try to get you going because you don't have good cell phone reception. Can you verify your coordinates one more time?
Okay, my coordinates are 30 degrees by 14.684 north, and then west by 88 degrees by 46.79.
Right. Looks like you're on Horn Island, correct? Are you
Yes,
on
we are
Horn
at Horn
Island?
Island. Yes.
All right. Is the boat sinking or you have it aground?
We were sinking, yes.
Is it aground is the question?
No, we're not aground. We are in
17
foot of water. We're in 31 foot of water.
All right. Have to ask. What do you want to do? Do you want to be towed back?
I want to get this boat unsank and towed back, yes.
All right. Where would you like it towed to, sir?
You can tow it to Ocean Springs Harbor, or Fort Bayou Launch.
All right. How many adults and children on board?
No, there's no children.
So is there anybody on board? How many adults, sir? That was the question. Hello, can you hear me?
Try to jump in and pull the plug while you're going.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yep, I just need you to answer these questions so I can get you over to the captain.
Okay,
How many adults on board?
There's 0 adults on board.
There's nobody on board the boat?
No. Nobody
right.
here is over the age of 21.
Sir, that was not the question. Is there a person? Is there a person, a living individual on the boat?
Hello?
Is there a living person, someone breathing on the boat? Is there anybody on the boat?
Yes, there's lots of people breathing on the boat.
All right, how many people, sir?
Like 7.
All right, thank you. Does everyone have life jackets on or available to them?
Yes, we have life jackets available.
All right. Verify what boat's sinking.
A Triton, 22-foot offshore 22-foot Triton offshore sea flight hull.
All right. All right. Please hold. I'm transferring you to the local captain now.
Okay, thank you.
This is Captain Seth.
Hi, Captain Seth. This is Vicky from International. How you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Good, good. I apologize ahead of time. I really do. You're going to have a fee-for-service come up under...
Okay.
It sounds like a bunch of kids on board on Horn Island. He's letting me know that his father's a member, but he can't give me any information. And he's saying the boat is sinking, and he's on Horn Island. It's just unfortunate. He's just a kid. There's a lot going on. So
Right.
he said there's about a lot of people on board. He says he thinks about 7. I'm guessing they're all under 18.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to be rude. He wants you guys to go out there and unpump the boat and then tow it in.
Do you know what kind of boat it is?
He said a Triton 24-footer, but that's all he can give me.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just actually got off the phone with his grandpa, who I'm guessing is the owner of the boat, and he said,
Okay.
I just hung up with him. He said that they don't need any help right now, but if something changes, he'll call me back. So
Right.
I'm guessing that they may have figured it out, because that's what he said. So they're in a panic and their boat won't crank.
Yeah, they're in a panic. He's saying the bilge is not keeping up. I asked for Coast Guard. He said no, but he's just really upset on the back end. And, I get it. It's a kid. He just doesn't understand.
Oh, okay. Do you still have him on the line?
Yes, I still have him on the line. And, again, I couldn't find he couldn't give me anything regarding his grandfather's, membership, so it's just under fee-for-service.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just talked to, if you want to, we're so tied up right now. We can't really do any non-member jobs right now.
Is he a member? Did you find out if he was a member or not?
Yeah, but I'm not sure if it's his boat or what. I'm not sure what's going on with it. But yeah, transfer the kid over. I'll talk to him, and then I'll call his grandpa back as well.
All right. And did you want me to look up membership number or anything like that to see if he's up? I know you guys are
You
swamped.
can try this cell phone number.
Yes, sir.
Anything on this phone number?
All right. Yep. Yeah, he's an active member. Hold on.
What kind of boat do you have on there? Same boat?
Yeah, he's one of your members. Yep, 22-foot Triton. All right. I'll just disregard this one. I'm going to send you over an accurate one under this one, okay? He's one of your members. You'll get in a couple minutes, okay?
Okay, perfect. All right. And, yeah, just transfer this kid over whenever you get a chance.
All right. Transferring now. Thank you again, Captain.
All righty.
Stay safe out there. It's crazy. Have a drink.
Oh, it's wild. All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hello? Hello? Are you there? I apologize. I will be disconnecting due to lack of response.
Before the CETO dispatcher picks up the phone, you can hear something in the background. 12 seconds into the recording. Before the caller says a word about the bilge pump or the sinking boat or the 7 people on board, before any of that. In the background of a frantic emergency call made from Horn Island on the afternoon of July 4th, 2026, someone, a woman's voice, according to multiple people who have analyzed the audio, says 3 words. Is he dead? That is what people hear. Not confirmed, not officially interpreted, not part of any law enforcement statement about this case. But the specific audio enhancement that TMZ performed on the CETO recording and the specific analysis of that audio by thousands of people who have replayed it trying to understand what happened to Nolan Xavier Wells has produced a single moment that 12 seconds into an emergency call becomes the most discussed 3 words in this investigation. Is he dead? You also hear, in people's interpretation of the background audio, someone calling out a name, Nolan, and then the words, "Oh my God." And in other parts of the recording, some listeners believe they can hear check his chest and wake up. The caller at one point yells, clearly and unmistakably, "Shut the F up." None of those interpretations have been confirmed by law enforcement. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office, which is leading this investigation, has not commented on the background audio's specific content. The FBI, which is assisting with digital evidence, has said the audio does not show anything nefarious. The specific assessment of retired FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam, who reviewed the recording for Fox News. Nothing nefarious, but Warren Hudson, the man who calls himself Nolan's best friend, who appeared on a podcast to break his silence, has now said something that changes the entire picture of what happened on Horn Island on July 4th. Something that had not been said before. Something that the GPS data, the emergency audio, and all of the previous witness accounts had left as an open question. He said that Nolan chose to stay. Not that Nolan was left behind in the chaos of a sinking boat. Not that the group departed without realizing he wasn't on board. Nolan chose to stay on the island with the girl that he was with. Chose. After the boat started taking on water. After the emergency began. After the chaos and the panic of a vessel that was sinking and 7 people scrambling to deal with it, Nolan, according to Warren Hudson, made a decision. He decided to stay on Horn Island. With a girl. A separate account, reported by Globe magazine, describes Nolan in his final moments as cradling a girl in his arms. The last time he was seen alive by anyone on the boat. TMZ also obtained a video recorded at 2:23 p.m. on July 4th that may show Nolan in the hours before his death. A black man standing on the back deck of a boat, bending over, alongside what appear to be older adults on board, wearing shorts matching the color of the ones Nolan wore in the photographs taken that morning. That video has been handed over to investigators. It was recorded approximately 2 hours before the bilge pump emergency. It may be the last known visual record of Nolan Wells alive, and then his body was found in the water 2 days later. This is Forensic Disconnect, and today we are going through every new development in the Nolan Wells investigation. The background audio and what people hear in it, Warren Hudson's specific new account of what happened at the moment the boat left the island, the cell phone that the Wells family believes may have had content deleted from it, the grand jury that has been announced, what the retired FBI agent said about the audio, and what all of it together tells us about where this investigation stands nearly a month after Nolan Wells was found, face down in the water off Horn Island's northwestern tip. Before we go further, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Here at Forensic Disconnect, we unlock the cases that deserve to be remembered. Subscribe. Let's start with the audio, because it is the specific development that has changed the public conversation about this case more than any single piece of evidence since Nolan's body was found on July 6th. The recording was obtained by Fox News Digital and independently by NBC News through records requests to the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources. It is a call placed to CETO, a private marine towing service, on the afternoon of July 4th, from someone aboard the boat that had brought Nolan and his friends to Horn Island. The call begins with background voices and hold music playing before the CETO dispatcher picks up. Then the caller explains the situation. The bilge pump has stopped working. The boat is taking on water. They need to be towed. The dispatcher asks for membership information. Asks how many people are on board. The caller says 7. The dispatcher asks whether everyone is accounted for and in good health. The caller confirms they are. 7 people. Everyone accounted for. Everyone in good health. The CETO boat captain, after connecting with the caller, told the dispatcher that the caller's grandfather, Jerry Adkerson, had assured him the situation was under control and that those on board did not need assistance after all. CETO never actually towed the boat. Another vessel anchored near Horn Island stepped in to tow them instead. And then, according to TMZ's reporting, the group eventually got their own boat's engine restarted and cruised back to the mainland under their own power, without Nolan. TMZ subsequently obtained video footage showing the boat being towed, without Nolan on it. In the video, the person standing at the helm appears to be on the phone. The footage confirms what the GPS data already established. When the boat left the island, Nolan was not aboard. Nolan Wells was not on that boat when it left the island. GPS data from the Mississippi Department of Marine Resources confirms the vessel departed at 4:31 p.m. Nolan's body was found on July 6th. The dispatcher was told everyone was accounted for and in good health. Those facts do not change regardless of what anyone hears in the background audio. But what people hear in the background audio is the specific detail that has sent the internet's analysis of this case into overdrive. And there is another fact that changes the timeline entirely. Witnesses told police they spotted Nolan Wells on Horn Island as late as 6 p.m. on July 4th, an hour and a half after the boat departed at 4:31 p.m. If those witness accounts are accurate, Nolan was alive on the island for at least 90 minutes after his friends left. He was not in the water at 4:31 p.m. He was on the island, walking, standing, existing, for at least 90 more minutes after the boat came home without him. TMZ enhanced the audio. Multiple social media analysts have enhanced it independently. The specific moment 12 seconds in, before the dispatcher picks up, when the background noise of the boat is audible, contains what multiple listeners describe as a female voice saying, "Is he dead?" Then someone saying, "Nolan." Then, "Oh my God." Then, later in the call, what sounds to some listeners like "check his chest and wake up," and the caller himself, unmistakably, at one point yells, "Shut the F up." Retired FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam reviewed the audio for Fox News and said it does not show anything nefarious. He said the background sounds are consistent with the panic of people dealing with an emergency on a sinking boat. That what sounds like "is he dead" is the kind of frantic, frightened communication that people produce when they believe their boat is going down and they are not sure everyone is safe. That nothing in the audio points to foul play. The people who were on the boat have also denied it. TMZ's own sources told the outlet that the people on the boat deny that anyone said "is he dead." Their position is that the words were not spoken, that what listeners are hearing is not what they think they are hearing. And then there is the question of the audio itself. Digital forensics expert Robert Freed appeared on News Nation's Jesse Weber Live after analyzing both the original MDMR recording and the enhanced version published by TMZ. He found something specific and significant. The TMZ version is 20 seconds longer than the original recording, and it has a different digital fingerprint. A different fingerprint means the files are not identical. Something was changed between the original and the TMZ version. Whether that change was legitimate enhancement, audio processing, or something else, Freed said he cannot determine without seeing the original file and its metadata. He said much of the original audio was redacted by the MDMR before release, potentially omitting information embedded in the file. He wants to see the original. He wants to see the metadata. That is the official interpretation from a credentialed law enforcement professional. It may be correct. The background audio may be exactly what Gilliam describes, the panic of 7 people dealing with a maritime emergency, producing the specific chaotic speech of frightened people in a difficult situation. But the specific 3 words, "Is he dead?" in the specific context of an investigation into how an 18-year-old ended up dead in the water while his friends made it home, have produced a public response that the FBI's nothing nefarious assessment has not quieted. Because the question is not just what someone said, it is when they said it. 12 seconds into the call. Before the dispatcher picks up, before anyone has confirmed that everyone is accounted for, before the official narrative of the call, "everyone is fine, bilge pump failed, need a tow," has been established. If someone on that boat said "is he dead" 12 seconds before the dispatcher answered, they were not talking about the boat sinking. Boats do not die. People die. "Is he dead" is a question about a person. Which person? The investigation has not confirmed what the background audio contains. The investigation has said nothing nefarious. The family has said they want answers. And Warren Hudson has now provided an account that, for the first time, describes specifically what he says happened in the moments before the boat left. Now let's go to Warren Hudson's account in detail, because the specific new information he provided in his podcast interview, taken together with what we already knew from the GPS data and the emergency audio, changes the picture of those final moments on Horn Island in ways that raise as many questions as they answer. Hudson told the podcast that he did not travel to Horn Island on the same boat that Nolan arrived on. He said he had a couple of conversations with Nolan while they were both on the island. He said he eventually went back to shore on the boat that began to sink. which was not the boat he had originally arrived on. He said that when the boat started taking on water and the emergency began, Nolan made a decision. He said, "Obviously, we were in an emergency. The boat was trying to be saved. It's not like we didn't ask Nolan or we just left Nolan. Nolan decided to stay on the island with the girl that he was with. This account is different from what had previously been understood about the situation. The previous understanding, based on the GPS data, the emergency audio, and earlier characterizations, was that Nolan was not on the boat when it left, but the specific circumstances of his absence were unclear. The bilge pump emergency had been offered as a possible explanation for why the group left without confirming everyone was aboard. Hudson's account is more specific. He says Nolan was asked. He says the group did not simply leave without noticing. He says Nolan made a conscious decision to remain on the island, specifically to stay with the girl he was with. That girl, subsequently identified as 19-year-old Katie McCormick, has not spoken publicly. Her sister Gracie told the Daily Mail that Katie assumed the friends telling Nolan to get on the boat wouldn't have left him, that Katie believed Nolan was going to board before the boat departed. So we have two accounts of the same moment. Hudson says Nolan chose to stay after being asked. Katie McCormick's sister says Katie, who was present for Nolan's last known conversation, assumed Nolan was getting on the boat and that his friends wouldn't leave him. One account says Nolan made a decision. The other says the person closest to him at that moment assumed he was not staying. Those two accounts are not necessarily contradictory. Nolan may have told one group of people he was staying while a different person nearby assumed he was boarding. The specific chaos of a sinking boat emergency, with multiple conversations happening simultaneously among different groups of people on the island, could produce exactly this kind of divergence. Two different people, at approximately the same time, with two different understandings of what Nolan was about to do. But the divergence is significant, and it is the specific divergence that the investigation's 60 witnesses have been interviewed to resolve. The full account of what happened in those moments, who said what to whom, what Nolan communicated to different people, what the specific sequence of events was in the minutes before 4:31 p.m., is the specific account that the investigation holds and the public does not. Now let's go to the cell phone, because the Wells family's attorneys have now said something specific and new about the phone. They will work directly alongside investigators to examine it. And they have said something that raises an immediate question. The family believes the phone may have had content deleted from it. That specific claim, from the Wells family's attorneys representing the parents of an 18-year-old found dead in the water after his friends came home without him, is the specific allegation that moves this case from a drowning investigation into something with a different kind of urgency. If Nolan's cell phone had content deleted from it, the specific questions are, what content, when was it deleted, and who had access to the phone between the time Nolan last used it and the time investigators examined it. The phone was on Horn Island with Nolan on July 4th. It was presumably found on or near his body when the National Park Service agent located him on July 6th. The specific chain of custody of the phone, from the moment of recovery to the moment investigators took possession, is the specific record that determines whether the deletion allegation is investigable. The FBI is assisting with digital evidence in this case. Phone forensics, including the recovery of deleted content, is precisely the kind of digital evidence work that federal resources are equipped to do. Modern forensic phone analysis can recover deleted data from most smartphones, depending on the specific method used for deletion and the time elapsed since. If content was deleted from Nolan's phone before investigators took possession, the forensic analysis that the FBI is conducting may be able to recover it. What the family believes was deleted, and why they believe it, is information that has not been made public. Their attorneys have said the phone has emerged as a recurring point of concern. They are now working directly with investigators rather than conducting a parallel examination. That shift, from parallel investigation to direct collaboration with the official investigators, is itself significant. It suggests that the Wells family's legal team has decided that the official investigation's resources for phone forensics are what this specific question requires. Now let's talk about the grand jury. Because the announcement that this case will go to a grand jury is itself a statement about how the district attorney's office views what they have. District Attorney Angel Myers McElrath has confirmed the case will go to a grand jury when the investigation is complete. She said this case is being treated as a priority. A grand jury in Mississippi, once seated, has subpoena power. It can compel testimony under oath from witnesses who might otherwise decline to speak to law enforcement voluntarily. It can demand documents, records, and digital evidence. It can hear testimony in secret proceedings that are not subject to the public disclosure rules that govern ordinary police interviews. And it can return an indictment, or decline to, based on the full evidentiary record presented to it. The announcement of a grand jury is not a declaration that a crime occurred. It is a declaration that the district attorney believes the evidentiary record warrants formal legal scrutiny under oath. 60 witnesses have been interviewed. The FBI is involved. The cell phone is under examination. The independent autopsy found an undetermined cause of death with a discoloration on the back of the head and neck that could be decomposition or blunt force injury. The official autopsy has not been publicly released. The toxicology is pending. All of that goes to the grand jury. When the investigation is complete, the investigation is not complete. Now let's step back and examine what the specific combination of new information tells us about where this case is heading. Because Hudson's account, the background audio, the cell phone allegation, and the grand jury announcement together paint a picture that is more specific and more troubling than the initial nothing-to-see-here characterization of an accidental drowning suggested. Hudson says Nolan chose to stay. If that is accurate, the question is whether Nolan's choice was made freely and with full information, or whether it was made under circumstances that the background audio's 3 words might describe. Is he dead? If someone on that boat said those words before the dispatcher picked up, they were asking about the condition of a specific person. And if the answer was that the person was not dead, that Nolan was alive and choosing to stay, then the question exists in a different moral and legal universe than if the answer was that something had already happened to Nolan before the boat left. The background audio does not tell us which universe we are in. Nothing nefarious, says the retired FBI agent. Is he dead? Says what multiple listeners hear in the background. The investigation will eventually produce an answer. Nolan Wells was 18 years old. He was a wide receiver for Southwest Mississippi Community College. He went to Horn Island on July 4th to celebrate with his friends. He was the tallest person in the photographs from that morning, his arm around people he trusted, smiling at the camera. His father told reporters, "If you go with a group, you come back with the group." He always said yes, sir. The boat came back without him. Warren Hudson says he chose to stay. The background audio, in some people's interpretation, suggests someone asked if he was dead before the dispatcher answered. His phone may have had content deleted from it. The grand jury is waiting for a completed investigation. The investigation is ongoing. Let's go deeper into the specific forensic significance of the background audio and why the nothing nefarious assessment, while credentialed, does not actually resolve the question it appears to resolve. Jonathan Gilliam is a retired FBI agent. He reviewed the audio for Fox News. He said it does not show anything nefarious. His specific assessment, that the background sounds are consistent with the panic of people dealing with a maritime emergency, is a reasonable interpretation of what the audio contains. But the nothing nefarious assessment addresses the wrong question. The question is not whether the audio shows nefarious activity. Nefarious activity captured on an emergency call would be extraordinary. The question is what the background words mean and when they were said relative to the sequence of events on the island. 12 seconds into the recording. That is before the dispatcher picks up. The hold music is playing. The call has connected to the CTO service but has not yet been answered by a human dispatcher. In that 12-second window, before anyone on the call is speaking to a dispatcher, before any official interaction is occurring, before the caller has begun to describe the emergency, someone in the background, according to multiple listeners' interpretation of the enhanced audio, says, "Is he dead?" The nothing nefarious assessment says this is panic from the boat emergency. But is he dead is a specific question about a specific person's condition. It is not the question you ask about a boat. A boat takes on water. A boat sinks. You do not ask if a boat is dead. You ask if a person is dead. Which person? At 4:31 p.m. on July 4th, The boat was at the west tip of Horn Island with 7 people on board. Nolan Wells was on the island. If someone on that boat at the moment the CTOW call connected was asking whether a specific person was dead, that question has a specific referent. And the specific referent, in the context of this investigation, is obvious. The nothing nefarious assessment does not tell us who the question was about. It tells us the audio does not, in Gilliam's professional assessment, show foul play. Those are different statements. An audio recording that captures someone asking, "Is he dead?" 12 seconds before a dispatcher answers does not necessarily show foul play. It shows someone asking a question. What the question means, who it was about, what prompted it, what the answer was, is not contained in the audio. It is in the investigation's interviews with the 7 people on that boat. Those interviews have been conducted, 60 witnesses total, including the 7 people on the boat. What those 7 people said about the background audio, and specifically about whether anyone on the boat was aware that Nolan was in distress or had already been harmed before the boat departed, is information the investigation has. The public does not. Now let's also go deeper into Warren Hudson's specific account and the specific new questions it raises. Because his explanation, Nolan chose to stay with the girl, is more complicated than it first appears. Hudson said he did not arrive at Horn Island on the same boat as Nolan. He had separate transportation. He arrived separately, had conversations with Nolan during the day, and ended up on the boat that began to take on water. The same boat that subsequently left the island without Nolan. This means Hudson was on the boat that made the CTOW call. He was one of the 7 people the caller confirmed were accounted for and in good health. If Hudson was on the boat, and if the background audio captures someone asking, "Is he dead?" 12 seconds before the dispatcher answered, Hudson would know who was asking and why. He was there. He was one of the 7. The specific content of what was said on that boat in those moments is information Hudson has and has shared only selectively. In a podcast interview that addressed some aspects of what happened but did not, based on available reporting, addressed the background audio directly. Hudson's account also introduces a specific new element, the timeline of when Nolan was last seen on the boat versus on the island. Hudson says Nolan was at some point back on the boat. He says Nolan chose to stay after the boat started taking on water, which implies Nolan was on or near the boat when the decision was made. This is different from the earlier understanding, which suggested Nolan may never have returned to the boat after being last seen on the island at approximately 3 p.m. If Nolan was on or near the boat when the bilge pump emergency began, if he was present at the scene of the emergency and then chose to remain on the island while the boat departed, the specific sequence of events is more specific than GPS data alone can establish. The GPS tells you the boat left at 4:31 p.m. Hudson's account implies Nolan was at or near the boat at the time of departure and made a specific decision to stay. What prompted that decision? The girl, Hudson says. Nolan decided to stay with the girl that he was with. That girl is Katie McCormick, 19, who has not spoken publicly. Her sister Gracie said Katie assumed Nolan was getting on the boat, that the friends telling him to board wouldn't leave without him. Someone told Nolan to get on the boat. Nolan decided to stay. Katie assumed he was boarding. The boat left. Nolan died. That is the sequence of events as the available witness accounts describe it. It is a sequence that has a 90-minute window at its center, the window between approximately 3 p.m. and 4:31 p.m., during which something happened on Horn Island that produced the background words in the CTOW call and the independent autopsy's undetermined finding and the family's allegation about deleted phone content. Now let's examine what the deleted phone content allegation actually means forensically. Because the specific claim that Nolan's phone may have had content deleted from it is either the most significant evidentiary allegation in this case or a family's understandable but unverifiable concern. Understanding the difference requires understanding how phone forensics actually works. Modern smartphones store data in flash memory that, when content is deleted, does not immediately overwrite the physical storage locations that content occupied. Instead, the file system marks those locations as available for new data. The content remains physically present on the device until new data overwrites those specific storage locations. Forensic phone analysis can recover deleted data, text messages, photos, videos, call logs, Location data from devices where the physical storage locations have not yet been overwritten. The specific window between when content was deleted and when the forensic analysis occurs determines what can be recovered. If content was deleted from Nolan's phone on July 4th and forensic analysis was initiated quickly, the probability of recovery is high. If weeks elapsed between deletion and analysis, the probability decreases as the device's storage locations are progressively overwritten by normal device operations. The FBI's involvement in digital evidence examination means that the resources available for this analysis are significant. Federal forensic phone labs have the specific tools and expertise to extract deleted content from most modern smartphones. If content was deleted from Nolan's phone and the device has been in investigative custody since recovery on July 6th, the forensic analysis that the FBI is conducting should be capable of determining whether deletion occurred and, if so, what was deleted. What the Wells family attorneys have said is that they believe the phone may have had content deleted from it. They have not said investigators have confirmed this. They have said it is a concern, a recurring point of concern, that has led them to work directly with investigators to examine it rather than conducting a parallel examination. The fact that they are now collaborating with the official investigation on the phone analysis rather than running their own parallel track suggests that the official investigation's forensic resources are what this specific question requires. It also suggests that whatever the family's attorneys believe about the phone, they have concluded that the best path to verifying that belief is through the official forensic process. If deleted content is recovered from Nolan's phone, the specific question is what that content shows about the events of July 4th. Text messages sent or received in the hours before his death, photos or videos taken on the island, location data that supplements or contradicts the GPS data from the boat, calls made or received. Any content that documents what Nolan was doing, seeing, saying, or experiencing in the 90-minute window that the investigation is trying to reconstruct. The phone is potentially the most specific single piece of evidence in this case. If it shows what the family believes it might show, and if the deletion allegation is accurate, it is also potentially the evidence that changes the entire legal trajectory of the investigation. Now let's also address the racial dimension of this case one more time, because the new developments, Hudson's account, the background audio, the deleted phone allegation, do not exist in a vacuum. They exist in the specific context of a case that has become a national conversation about race and justice in Mississippi. Ben Crump said at the July 10th press conference what he has said in case after case. When a young black man does not come home from a boat trip with white friends in Mississippi, the specific question being asked is not paranoid. It is the question that Mississippi's history demands. The answer must come through a thorough, transparent, credible investigation, not through an assumption. The initial characterization of this case, no foul play identified, possible drowning, nothing to see here, is the specific characterization that Crump's presence and the family's independent investigation have challenged, not by producing alternative facts, by demanding that the official facts be complete, that the phone be fully examined, that the 60 witnesses' accounts be fully developed, that the grand jury be convened, that the undetermined autopsy finding be resolved. Hudson's account of what happened on the boat, Nolan chose to stay, is the official adjacent narrative that the Crump-Wells family track has not accepted as settled. Because the specific question of whether a choice made on a sinking boat emergency, with a background audio that some people interpret as asking, is he dead, and a phone that may have had content deleted, and an independent autopsy that found an undetermined discoloration on the back of the head and neck, whether that combination of facts describes a young man who freely chose to stay on an uninhabited island and then drowned, or whether it describes something else, that question has not been answered. Not by the official autopsy, which has not been released, not by the toxicology, which is pending, not by the phone forensics, which are ongoing, not by the grand jury, which is waiting for a completed investigation. Nolan Wells was 18 years old. He was the tallest person in the photographs from that morning. He had his arm around his friends. He was smiling. His father taught him, "If you go with a group, you come back with the group." He always said, "Yes, sir." Warren Hudson says he chose to stay. The background audio, in 12 seconds of hold music before a dispatcher answers, may say something different. The investigation will eventually tell us which one is true. Let's also look at what the specific investigative structure of this case tells us about the timeline for resolution. Because the convergence of multiple pending elements, the official autopsy, the toxicology, the phone forensics, the grand jury, creates a specific timeline that suggests when answers might arrive and when they might not. The official autopsy was conducted by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office on July 7th. It has now been 3 weeks since that examination. The fact that it has not been released publicly in 3 weeks is itself information. Autopsy reports that are straightforward, that find a clear cause of death consistent with drowning, without complicating factors, are typically available relatively quickly. A 3-week delay suggests either that the medical examiner's office is taking additional time to complete the analysis, that there are specific findings that require additional testing before the report can be finalized, or that the district attorney's office has asked that the report be withheld from public release while the investigation continues. Any of those 3 explanations is possible. All of them suggest that the official autopsy is not a simple document. If it were a straightforward drowning finding with no complications, it would likely have been released by now. The toxicology is a separate timeline. Standard toxicological analysis in Mississippi typically takes 4 to 8 weeks from the time samples are submitted. The samples from Nolan's examination were submitted on or shortly after July 7th. That puts the expected return of toxicology results somewhere between early August and early September. The specific substances tested for, alcohol, controlled substances, prescription medications, will determine what the toxicology shows about Nolan's state on July 4th. The phone forensics timeline is the most variable. If the FBI's forensic analysis of the phone has been ongoing since the investigation's early days, results may already be in the hands of investigators. If the collaboration between the Wells family attorneys and the official investigation is just beginning, the analysis may be weeks away from completion. The specific timeline of the phone forensics is not public information. The grand jury timeline is the most indeterminate of all. McElrath said the case goes to the grand jury when the investigation is complete. She did not define complete. In cases of this complexity, with ongoing forensic analysis, federal involvement, and 60 witnesses whose accounts are still being developed, complete could mean months. What this timeline tells us is that the summer of 2026 is unlikely to produce a resolution in the Nolan Wells investigation. The answers, whatever they are more likely to emerge in the fall, when the toxicology is back and the official autopsy is released, and the phone forensics are complete, and the grand jury has been presented with the full picture. Until then, the investigation continues. The background audio plays on loop. Warren Hudson's account sits alongside Katie McCormick's sister's account. The phone is being examined. The grand jury is waiting, and the question that 12 seconds of hold music before a CETO dispatcher answers may or may not have posed, "Is he dead?" sits in the specific uncertainty that defines this case. Now let's also consider what the Wells family is living through as this investigation unfolds. Because Elmore and Christine Wansley are not abstract figures in a true crime narrative. They are parents. They are the people who taught Nolan to come back with the group. They are the people who heard from one of his friends that night that he had not come back. They are the people who spent 2 days not knowing where he was, and then learned he had been found face down in the water off an island 10 miles from shore. They are the people who now, nearly a month later, are being told that their son's phone may have had content deleted from it. That the background audio of the emergency call contains words that some people interpret as asking about his death. That the independent autopsy's cause of death is undetermined. That the official autopsy has not been released. That the toxicology is pending. That the grand jury is waiting. Elmore Wansley said something in the days after Nolan's body was found that is the specific expression of a father's refusal to accept the easy answer. He said, "I don't believe he decided to stay on the island by himself. We always taught him if you go with a group, you stay with the group. If you go with 5, you come back with 5. Do not separate from the group. His son always said, 'Yes, sir.' The boat came home with 6 people instead of 7. Warren Hudson says that was Nolan's choice." The background audio raises a question that Hudson's account does not answer. The investigation continues. And somewhere in the convergence of the official autopsy, the toxicology, the phone forensics, and the grand jury's eventual assessment, the answer to what happened to Nolan Xavier Wells on Horn Island on July 4, 2026, is waiting to be found. Let's also look at the specific significance of Nancy Grace's involvement in this case. Because when Nancy Grace says we are not stopping until we know what happened to Nolan Wells, and she said exactly that on her show, she is adding the specific weight of a television personality with a 30-year career in true crime advocacy to the public pressure on this investigation. Grace built her television career on cases where she believed justice was not being served. She is not a neutral observer. She is an advocate who chooses cases she believes require public scrutiny and applies the specific pressure that a national television platform provides. Her statement, "We are not stopping," is the statement of someone who has decided this case belongs in the category of cases where the official investigation needs to be watched carefully. The convergence of Ben Crump's legal advocacy and Nancy Grace's media advocacy around the Nolan Wells case is the specific combination that has kept national attention on a drowning investigation in Jackson County, Mississippi, for nearly a month. Without both of those pressures, the investigation might have moved more quietly. 60 witnesses interviewed, autopsy pending, toxicology pending, case proceeding at the pace of a county sheriff's investigation without the specific visibility that national advocacy creates. That visibility matters. It matters because it creates accountability. It creates the specific public record that means decisions made in this investigation will be evaluated not just internally, but by the millions of people who are watching and reading and listening and asking questions. It creates the pressure that produces the grand jury announcement, that produces the release of the audio recording, that produces the DA's statement that this case is a priority. The investigation would be happening without Grace and Crump, but it might not be happening in the same way at the same pace with the same level of public scrutiny. Now let's also address the specific significance of the 7 people on the boat. Because the CTO call says 7 people, and the GPS data says the boat left with 7 people and arrived at the original dock with 7 people. And Nolan Wells was not one of them. 7 people who were present during the bilge pump emergency. 7 people who are among the 60 witnesses interviewed by the Jackson County Sheriff's Office. 7 people whose specific accounts of what happened in those minutes, who said what was said in the background before the dispatcher answered, what happened to Nolan in the time immediately before the boat departed, are the specific evidence that the investigation has developed through its interviews. Those accounts, if they are consistent with each other, will be presented to the grand jury. If they are inconsistent, if some of the 7 describe events differently from others, the grand jury will have to evaluate those inconsistencies. The grand jury's subpoena power means that the 7 people on the boat can be required to testify under oath. Under oath is different from a voluntary interview. Under oath, perjury is a crime. Under oath, the specific pressure of legal consequence applies to the accuracy of what is said in ways that a voluntary interview does not. The grand jury may already be the tool that resolves the inconsistencies in the witness accounts. The specific question of what happened between approximately 3 p.m. and 4:31 p.m. and what the background audio contains and what it means may be the specific question that grand jury testimony under oath is designed to answer. Warren Hudson said Nolan chose to stay. He said that in a podcast. In a grand jury room, under oath, with subpoena power compelling him to appear, the same question will be asked. And the answer, whatever it is, will carry the specific legal weight of sworn testimony. The grand jury is waiting for a completed investigation. The investigation is not complete. Nolan Wells was 18 years old. He was a wide receiver. He had his arm around his friends in the photographs from that morning. He was the tallest person there. He went to Horn Island to celebrate the 4th of July. He did not come home. Warren Hudson says he chose to stay. The background audio may say something different. The phone may show something else entirely. And a grand jury eventually will hear all of it under oath and decide what the law requires. Let's also situate this case in the specific historical context of Horn Island itself, because the geography of where Nolan Wells disappeared is not incidental to the investigation. It is the specific environment that shaped every aspect of what happened on July 4th and every aspect of what the investigation can and cannot recover. Horn Island is part of the Gulf Islands National Seashore, a federally protected chain of barrier islands stretching along the coasts of Mississippi and Florida. The island is approximately 12 miles long and less than a mile wide at most points. It is uninhabited. No permanent structures, no running water, no electricity, no communications infrastructure. The National Park Service manages it. Visitors must arrive by private boat or commercial water taxi. There are no roads, no docks, no facilities. On July 4th, Horn Island is one of the most popular destinations on the Mississippi Gulf Coast for people celebrating the holiday. The island's beaches attract hundreds, sometimes thousands of visitors who anchor their boats offshore, set up on the sand, and spend the day swimming, drinking, and celebrating. The specific conditions of that environment — alcohol, sun, heat, limited shade, no facilities, the specific social dynamics of a large crowd of strangers on an island with no rules and no one in charge — are the conditions that preceded whatever happened to Nolan Wells. The specific location where his body was found, off the northwestern tip, is at one end of the island. The specific location where the sea tow call was made, the west tip, per the caller, is at approximately the same end of the island. The geographic proximity of the emergency call location to the body recovery location is a specific detail that investigators are working with and that the public has not fully connected. If the boat was at the west tip when the bilge pump failed, and the caller said we're at the west tip of Horn, and if Nolan's body was found off the northwestern tip, those two locations are in the same general part of the island. The specific distance between them and the specific geography of the island at that point, the beaches, the water depth, the currents, the specific conditions that would affect where a body in the water would travel in 2 days, are the forensic geography that the investigation is using to reconstruct the timeline. Where exactly was the boat anchored or beached when the emergency call was made? How far was that location from where Nolan was last seen? What is the distance between the departure point and the body recovery location? Those specific measurements, combined with the GPS data, the witness accounts, and the tide and current data for July 4th through July 6th, constitute the geographic and hydrological analysis that the investigation is conducting. The National Park Service agent who found Nolan on July 6th was patrolling the island's northwestern shoreline. The specific patrol route, the specific time of the discovery, and the specific condition and location of the body when found are details that the investigation has and the public does not have in full. The body was face down in the water, fully clothed. Those two details, face down, fully clothed, are the specific initial observations that shaped the early characterization of the case. A person who drowns accidentally typically loses clothing during the drowning process or is found in varying states of undress. A person who is found fully clothed and face down in relatively shallow coastal water is not the typical presentation of an accidental drowning where the person entered the water voluntarily and struggled before succumbing. It is more consistent with a person who was in the water without choosing to enter it, who ended up in the water rather than going into the water. That specific observation, fully clothed, face down, combined with the independent autopsy's undetermined finding and the discoloration on the back of the head and neck is the specific physical picture that the Wells family and Ben Crump are citing when they say the investigation's initial nothing to see. Here characterization was premature. The investigation has not confirmed or denied any theory about how Nolan entered the water. The official autopsy has not been released. The toxicology is pending. The 60 witness interviews contain accounts that the investigation is evaluating, and the grand jury, when the investigation is complete, will decide what the full evidentiary record requires. Nolan Wells was 18 years old. He was a wide receiver who played for Southwest Mississippi Community College. He grew up in Ocean Springs, a coastal city where the Gulf is part of daily life. He knew boats, he knew water. His parents taught him to stay with his group. He is in the ground in Mississippi now. His parents are waiting for answers. His father's words, "If you go with 5, you come back with 5, are the specific expression of a principle that was violated on July 4th, regardless of the cause. The boat came back with 6 people instead of 7. What happened to the 7th? In the 90 minutes between approximately 3 p.m. and 4:31 p.m. on Horn Island on July 4th, 2026, is the question the investigation will eventually answer. The background audio, in 12 seconds of hold music, may have captured the moment when the answer was already known to someone on that boat. Is he dead? The grand jury will find out. Let's address one more dimension of this case that has not received enough attention: the specific significance of the drinking. Warren Hudson confirmed in his podcast interview that the group had been drinking on the boat that day. The CETO audio caller sounds, in the assessment of at least one person who analyzed it, definitely drunk. The island on July 4th was a holiday celebration environment where alcohol was widely present. This matters for several reasons. First, alcohol impairs swimming ability. An 18-year-old who has been drinking on a hot July day and then enters the water voluntarily or involuntarily faces a different risk profile than a sober swimmer. If the toxicology shows alcohol in Nolan's system, it does not resolve the question of what happened to him. But it provides a physical context for how an accidental drowning could have occurred even without any other contributing factor. Second, alcohol impairs memory and observation. The 60 witnesses who were on Horn Island that day, many of whom were drinking, will have accounts that are filtered through varying degrees of alcohol-impaired perception. Their recollections of what they saw, who was where, what was said, and when, all of those recollections are potentially affected by the specific cognitive impairment of intoxication. This is not unique to this case. It is the evidentiary reality of investigating any incident that occurred in an environment with significant alcohol consumption. Third, alcohol affects the credibility assessment that a grand jury makes about witness testimony. When witnesses testify under oath about events they observed while intoxicated, the grand jury must evaluate those accounts with awareness of their limitations. The inconsistencies between Hudson's account and Katie McCormack's sister's account may not reflect deliberate misrepresentation by either party. They may reflect two people's impaired recollections of a chaotic moment from different vantage points. The toxicology will tell us what was in Nolan's system. The grand jury will hear what the witnesses say under oath, and the convergence of those two pieces of information, what Nolan's body was carrying and what the people around him remember, is the specific convergence that the investigation is building toward. One final thought about what the Nolan Wells case means for Mississippi and for the country. Because this case has become, in the week since July 4th, something that transcends the specific facts of one young man's death on one barrier island. It has become a conversation about who gets the benefit of the doubt in America, about whose death gets the thorough investigation, about whose family's concerns get treated as worth pursuing rather than dismissed. Elmore Wansley said his son always came back with the group. He said he doesn't believe Nolan would have stayed on the island alone. He said those things publicly, to reporters, because he needed people to hear them, because the initial nothing to see here from the sheriff's office was not the answer he was willing to accept. Ben Crump heard him. Nancy Grace heard him. The 60 witnesses who have been interviewed by investigators are responding, in part, to the specific public pressure that a father's refusal to accept easy answers has generated. The investigation is ongoing. The grand jury is waiting. The phone is being examined. The official autopsy has not been released. And somewhere in that convergence, in the eventual resolution of all of the pending evidence, the answer to what happened to Nolan Xavier Wells is waiting. His father taught him to come back with the group. The boat came back without him. The investigation will tell us why. If you have any information about what happened to Nolan Wells on Horn Island on July 4th, 2026, contact the Jackson County Sheriff's Office or the FBI's Jackson Field Office. Hit the like button. Subscribe to Forensic Disconnect. Drop a comment. Do you think Nolan chose to stay, or do you believe something happened to him before the boat left? And what do you make of the background audio? We read every single comment. We will be back tomorrow.